Hey everybody, Killian HB here, and today we're going to figure out what it means for pro teams that Inferno was removed from the active duty pool. So what Valve did is they took out Inferno, they added Nuke, and people are really upset about it. If you go on Twitter right now, you'll find a million players all saying how much they hate it and how dumb Valve is and all that sort of stuff. But let's look at the stats. What does it really mean for these teams that they can't play Inferno anymore? So, went on HLTV, looked at stats from the past 3 months. I did include LAN and online because it's just a bigger sample size. If there was a big enough sample size from just LAN, I would have used it, but these teams don't play all that much, and I wanted to have a decent size of maps to go through for each team. So, that's what I did. Let's check it out. So first, we're going to figure out which teams are the most successful on Inferno, or were the most successful on Inferno. Let's figure it out. Technically, within the top 20 teams, the team with the highest win percentage on Inferno is Godsend. But the caveat there is they are 2-0 on it. 2 maps played. It's nothing, right? And one of them was against Pitter. I don't even know if that's how you say it. Piter, I don't know. The other one was against Mousesports, a bit more legit right there, right? So let's ignore them for a second. Who else has very high win percentages on there? Tempo Storm. It's Tempo Storm's home map, right? They are 8-1 on it. That's an 88.9% win rate, very high. So this move might be screwing them a little bit, right? Who else? Fnatic, monsters on this map. They've played it a bunch of times, 84.6% win rate for them. Again, maybe their best map, right? Probably what you'd call their home map right now. This hurts for them, and you can see guys like Olaf, JW, Dennis, all pretty upset about this, or at least making jokes about it, making fun of Valve. They were pretty outspoken on it. Going through, who else likes it? Actually, Hellraisers, they enjoy this map a lot. They do quite well on it. As do FaZe, surprisingly. FaZe have been slumping real hard, losing seemingly every day, which they probably are. But they have a decent win rate on here. They played it 7 times, 71% win rate. Not bad, right? Gambit have the same stats as FaZe on the map. And Luminosity, they have a 70% win rate on it in the last 3 months. So these are the teams within the top 20 that, like Inferno, quite a bit, they when they play it, at least, they win it. Whether or not they choose to play is another story. Some of them do, some of them don't, but they are quite proficient on it. And I should point out that these teams within the top 20, the ones towards the top are obviously playing much better teams, right? The ones towards the bottom, they're playing in these leagues where they're playing against lesser teams a lot of the time, so their stats are a little pumped up. But that doesn't take away from the fact that these are maps that they do like, that they are successful on, right? So let's look at teams that are kind of in the middle. They're not bad on the map. They don't have really poor stats on it, but they're not at the top either. So looking at these, actually Navi is in there. They have a 66.66 repeating percent win rate on here, right? Which is kind of surprising because people would always say it. I mean, it really just kind of goes to show how successful Navi have been, right? That they actually have a decent win rate on this map because the experts like to say, right, that their permaban is Cache and their next worst map is probably Inferno. So if you can get it there, that's where you should take it in the veto. But lately they have been putting together quite a few wins on here and against pretty good opposition as well. G2 also has the same win percentage, 66% repeating, blah blah blah. Tyloo, same thing, except much smaller pool here. Just 3 maps played, 1-2, lost 1. But when they've played it, they've done all right. Astralis is okay on it, 60%, so winning more than half, but they're not killing it, right? And lastly, eFrag. They've played it quite a bit, and they have a 58.3% win rate. Now, moving on, who is not that great? Who has what I would consider a poor win rate? Less than 50%. They lose it more often than not, or they're even, as is the case with Envious. even 50% win rate, 5-5. Talking about Envious in the recent past, we would say that Inferno is their best map, right? But they have not been doing well on it lately. They haven't been doing well on anything really, but Inferno is in that camp as well for them, unfortunately. Dignitas, 46% win rate, not doing too hot. VP, 33.3 repeating. They haven't played it that much, only 3 times, so they really kind of try to steer things away from Inferno for the most part. Obviously, Dust 2 is their permaban, but after that, Inferno they don't really like playing, and their stats show it. They haven't won it a whole lot, right? Mouse Sports, 20% win rate. That's rough. And they also haven't played it much, obviously indicating that they try to move away from it in their bans. They kind of try to stay away from it. But 20%, that's rough. Now, lastly, let's get into the North Americans, who are famously horrendous on Inferno, right? So, Cloud9 is the best out of the 3 NA teams in the top 20. They have a 25% win rate, but they've only played it 4 times, so again, they're trying to stay away from it for the most part. CLG, 20%. That's rough. They have played it 5 times total, only won 1 of them. Sorry, CLG. Lastly, Liquid. They have a 0% win rate in the last 3 months, but that is because they have played it a grand total of 0 times. Just for the sake of having something to talk about for them, I did look up their 2015 stats, which with all these roster changes are totally meaningless, but they were barely positive in their win rate last year on it. Maybe tell you something. I don't know. I remember last year, though, they were kind of trying to go towards it, but and doing all right, but then moved back away from it. So, we'll see. Same deal. NIP, 0% win rate in the past 3 months. They have played it 5 times and won 0 of them. Again, some of these are against very good opposition, right? Can't blame them necessarily for some of that. But, again, just to have something to talk about, went to last year. Different lineup, different coach, different IGL, right? But they had a 60% win rate on it last year. They're actually decent, if I remember. They had a couple close games, a couple good wins on it at big events last year, but that hasn't really carried on with this new roster. So it seems that it is something that they're not trying to play so much. So, lastly, what I'd like to look at is which teams, not just looking at win rate, who is winning it the most, but who is actually just willing to play it the most, whether they're winning or losing, because that does indicate, right, a sort of amount of comfort on the map. So, who likes playing this map? At the very top of the list is Fnatic. Makes sense, right? It's their home map. They have a great win percentage, if we go at 84%, right? So it makes sense. Easy. They love playing this map. Next up is actually more interesting. Dignitas has also played it 13 times in the last 3 months, the same as Fnatic, but they have a pretty horrendous win rate on it, 46%. So it shows that they're willing to play it, that they have some sort of comfort level on it, but they aren't getting these wins. And granted, some of them are against very good opposition, right? Going down, G2 is willing to play this map. eFrag is willing to play it. They've both played it 12 times in the last 3 months. Hellraisers like to play it. Luminosity, right? It's one of their best maps. Astralis is willing to play it, and then Envious, mostly probably because it used to be one of their best maps, so they're still trying to figure it out, and maybe, at least for a bit of the past 3 months, thought they could still compete very well on it, which didn't turn out to be the case so much. And lastly, Tempo Storm. They've played it 9 times. But I think that's a little bit deceiving. They have played it less than some of these other teams, but as we have seen with all this controversy lately, they're in less leagues than a lot of the other teams, so they just have less chances to play. But they are going to it pretty much any opportunity that they can. Now, who does not like playing it? I touched on this a little bit, but it's worth going through. So, Tyloo, right, doesn't really go towards it. They've only played it 3 times. Who else? Godsent, relatively new team. They do have a great win rate on it, 100%, right? Yay. But they've only played it twice. And obviously, like I said, the North American teams really aren't going to play it. So that's pretty much all the stats that I have. But one thing I wanted to point out is there's a reason, and you'll notice that I didn't call this video what plus nuke means for pro teams. And that's because we really don't know what it means. And it would be almost dumb for me to try and imagine what it might mean. Like, we can try and get stats from the old nuke, but the map's changed so much and is apparently supposed to be so much more T-sided now that those things would be pretty meaningless. So I really just wanted to look at what taking out Inferno means rather than trying to add some sort of conjecture to what adding nuke would mean for these teams. But maybe it will turn out that for some of these teams who really liked Inferno, this will be a really bad move, and for some of the ones that really didn't like Inferno, it'll be a good one. We'll have to see and find out, but maybe now that you'll know all this, you'll have a better idea of what this removal means for some of these teams. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.